DOGE is on the move up next at the IRS and our gold reserves.
I've been trying to go down and see the gold and make sure it's all there for about 10 years. I think the more sunlight, the better, more transparency, the better.
With DOGE continuing its search for wasteful spending, Democrats insist on putting up roadblocks. Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeting this. Good news. After we raised the alarm, DOGE has been blocked from accessing sensitive Department of Education data. Your Social Security number, income data, and personal information are safe for now. We will keep fighting back. But Utah Senator Mike Lee just was not having it. He responded, you literally passed a law giving IRS visibility into Venmo payments, and now you're all about privacy, but only for DOGE because it's trying to weed out waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer funds. And are the vampires living amongst us? Because Elon Musk taking a peek into Social Security, apparently over 20 million recipients are listed as being above the age of 100. With one being listed between the ages of 360 and 369 years old. I would like to eat what that person is eating. Now, a judge is ordering an extension on the temporary block of Musk's access to the Government Efficiency Department. I guess musician Sheryl Crow would be happy with all of these roadblocks because the Grammy winner, she sold her Tesla. She donated the money to NPR in protest of Elon Musk. I'm sure that's the best use of her money. Welcome to the second hour of the Big Money Show. I'm Jackie DeAngelis, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Dagan McDowell, Jeff Flock, in for Brian Brunberg, and O'Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary is sticking around for another jam-packed hour. We're going to begin on Capitol Hill with the latest DOGE moves. Hillary Vaughn has them for us. Hi, Hillary.
Hi, Jackie. Well, there is a concern that DOGE is getting access to sensitive information at the IRS, but this is something that people at the IRS have access to every single day to do their job. So the people who are protesting are really mad that DOGE is the one who's getting to look under the hood. The White House has insisted that anyone viewing anything sensitive or classified or private has the clearance and appropriate approval to do so. A White House official says that direct access to what's called the Integrated Data Retrieval System, which includes visual access to taxpayer accounts, is needed to audit the IRS, something the IRS workers do every day to Americans. The IRS is also not immune from downsizing. AP reports they will lay off thousands of IRS workers who have been in the probation period of their employment, with cuts happening as soon as next week.
People work very hard to pay their taxes every single day. They're hurting. They see wasteful government spending. We need to have government in the sunshine. We need to have spending in the sunshine.
In addition to finding fraud, DOGE is discovering lost taxpayer cash. DOGE helping the Department of Housing and Urban Development relocate $1.9 billion that had gone missing under Biden. That's nearly $2 billion that they say the Treasury can now use for other things. DOGE has also been digging into Social Security. Elon Musk estimating there are about 60 million more Social Security numbers issued than there are Americans, saying, quote, there are far more eligible Social Security numbers than there are citizens in the USA. This might be the biggest fraud in history, but Democrats say DOGE is exaggerating all this fraud they're finding.
These are by and large performative theatric measures. They'll pick these one-off cases and they'll say this is broad policy. This is what an entire department or agency does or represents, and it's just not true.
Musk also found that there's over 4 million people in the Social Security database who have an age over 140 years old. The oldest person alive right now in the world is 116 years old. So this is either a smoking gun for fraud, or as Elon Musk joked, vampires could be real. Jackie?
They just might be. Hillary Vaughn, thank you so much. Meantime, there's more money set to come back to taxpayers across this country, but how soon until the left starts screaming about the D.C. housing market and unemployment numbers that are spiking? The median home value dropped 20% since November, and unemployment in D.C. for the week ending February 8th. The jobless filings were up 36% from the week prior. One more thing I thought was really interesting. The Kobayashi letter says 8,000 homes were listed for sale in Washington, D.C. and the metro area. Almost half of them have been put on the market in the last 30 days alone. So while the Democrats are melting down and they can keep crying and cursing and holding rallies, but as Charles Payne said in the previous hour, they're not listening. You've also got a swamp that's being drained, and these numbers are evidence of that. You're new in this hour, Jeff. What's your reaction?
Well, it's kind of an indication about how things have changed. You know, I'm old enough to remember something called the Golden Fleece Award, which a Democrat senator from Wisconsin named William Proxmire started in 1975. And each month he would give an award to a government agency that was wasting our money. Mm-hmm. This went on for years. It was the Democrats that were doing this. And now I guess it's a couple of generations later, right? Now it's the Republicans that are taking the lead on it. And, you know, I think arguably our government could have used a little bit of a shakeup. I don't know, you don't want to shake it too hard, but a shakeup. Yeah, oh, you do. Oh, I know. Dagan wants to.
Yes. I want to, well, Kevin, shake it until it doesn't feel good.
I remember the Fleece Awards. However, they didn't have social media in those days.
Right.
And so the message didn't get out as quickly as it's getting now, because it was always at the bottom of the story of the day. I remember that award. Yeah. But this is good stuff going on. I don't know why anybody would think it isn't. And it hasn't ever been done. And I think it's a wonderful idea that this money stays in the economy instead of being wasted, because it would make the whole country more productive. And that's really why everybody, I would bet you 7 out of 10 people on the street like what's going on in this cost-cutting stuff. And every day it's getting more interesting, because they read the crazy stories. And they say, that's my money. You know, I have $68,000 average salary, and I'm watching this. This is working. It's really interesting to watch it work.
In honor of Kevin O'Leary, because I know he's all about permitting reform, I think, Jackie, for me, DOGE goes a little bit step deeper. I think I love cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse, cutting the money, slashing jobs. But I think the next layer is going to have to be government working around red tape, because we all remember, and this is from the New York Times this morning, where they say passing a law is all great, but then you have companies are involved, agencies, you're applying for permits, how do you meet regulatory standards for construction, blah, blah, blah. It could be months or years before actual building of, let's say, a home or a new factory can actually start. You guys all remember, more than 2 years after Congress enacted the $5 billion EV charging stations, there's just 2, you know, Ohio and New York, that have actually opened any. And in 3 years, only a number, dozens, have actually opened. That's well below the hundreds that they promised us. So I love DOGE and the cost cutting, but I also eventually want to see, how do we deal with the red tape? Keeping things safe with the permitting, but cutting the crap that takes years and years to go through to get anything done.
That $5 billion program specifically ran through the Department of Transportation, called the NEVI program. Only about, it's less than $700 million was sent out to the states. Sean Duffy sent out a memo saying, we're putting a stop to this, so no more money goes out, and that any approvals that the states had submitted to the Department of Transportation, he has put the kibosh on them and said, whatever approvals you submitted, we're putting pause on that. But you will hear, for example, Senator Tim Kaine talking about, this is a war on veterans, and the VA is slashing jobs. Be very careful, because the caterwauling and the shrieking, particularly by lawmakers who live in the kind of greater D.C. area, Charlie Hurt said this Friday, they're very concerned about those constituents losing their lunch money, so to speak, because 1,000 jobs, probationary jobs, were eliminated last week at the VA. That is 0.2% of the VA's 450,000 people who work there. And it is only 2% of the total probationary number of employees. This every bureaucrat is sacred is absolute hog manure. And that is how we got into this situation that we're in now, where we have government so bloated and dysfunctional that it's just a complete waste of not only time, but our hard-earned money.
Absolutely. And I really think that people, we've said this time and time again, they voted for this. But the thing is, how do you keep it going? How do we ensure that after Donald Trump, even if he wins the court battles and even if he, Elon Musk is successful in what he's doing, that this becomes, you know, a lasting part of American culture, I would call it.
I was thinking about that very thing. How do you make it function?
Yeah.
How do you make it function after you right-size it?
I think it goes into the DNA of the electorate, and so they ask each party every time there's an election cycle, whether it be midterm or presidential election, what are you going to do for me on DOGE? What are you going to do for me to keep cutting? What are you going to show me that you stay productive? How are you going to make it even better? Because there's always fat on the chicken. There's always fat. And you can keep cutting all the time. I think it's a productivity tool that comes into the electorate forever. It's a very cool thing that's going on here. I think the outcome of this could be Trump's biggest legacy, that he let this happen. Because whether you like him or you don't, no one's ever done this before.
And I just, to insert and be a skunk at the garden party here, say that you got to do it carefully. I think scalpel, not machete, for a lot of this is important, because if you screw it up somehow and something does go wrong, like they fired some guys at the agency that controls the nuclear stockpile. They realized, whoa, wait a minute, that we better not do that, and they brought them back. Do it carefully so that it's successful and it doesn't screw something up that jeopardizes the agenda going.
Probationary employees, because probationary employees don't have the civil service protections at this point.
Right.
So it's probationary employees, it's last hired, first fired, which these civil service protections essentially force anybody who wants to cut the chicken fat to do. And as Jackie Heinrich pointed out, HHS let 3,600 probationary employees go last week, but 4,000 were retained in areas like science and research.
That's what I'm saying. Just, get it right.
I just go back to Elon Musk in the Oval Office from last week when he talked about, listen, we are going to make mistakes. We're being transparent about it. We have checks and balances internally where, the president's overseeing what they're doing and they're watching each other as well. And I appreciated that because it was honest. It was like, we're humans. Yes. We're trying to do something here. It's never been done before. We will mess up, but we'll be honest about it and we'll fix it.